In preparation for my appearance today, I met with Joe Grunfest, former SEC Commissioner and current Professor of Law and Business at Stanford University. He said it best: don't expect a fish not to swim. Wall Street will push rules to the limits. Assume the fish will swim. In a capitalist system, financial institutions' primary mission is to grow their businesses. In serving as the ultimate check, the primary focus of Congress with respect to financial services should be to understand the industry it regulates, its Washington strategies, its complex new financial products, and the risks posed by either the elimination of existing legislation or the creation of new legislation. And to fully understand and monitor complicated companies like AIG, Lehman, Merrill, Bear Stearns, and the systemic risks their business models pose, such as being too big to fail. We should not have had to resort to desperate, misguided, distasteful measures, such as bailing out Bear Stearns bondholders and not Lehman's, allowing an investment bank to convert to a bank holding company, pledges worse collateral to borrow from the Fed, or to capitalize upon this new status and borrow at now federally subsidized interest rates. The end result being yet another Wall Street opportunity to reinvest those same taxpayer-subsidized proceeds in higher-yielding U.S. treasuries. Regarding this last point, in a capitalist system, risk and return should be related. Our government provided Goldman Sachs with a free lunch. Don't blame Goldman Sachs. It would be irresponsible of any financial institution to not capitalize upon this opportunity. Much has been written about the incestuous Goldman Sachs-Washington connection. Throughout the unfolding of the recent financial debacle, a disproportionate number of influential decision-makers came from Goldman Sachs, as you all know, including Hank Paulson, Treasury Secretary and former Goldman CEO, Steve Friedman, Director of the National Economic Council under Bush, Chairman of the New York Fed, while still a member of the Board of Directors of Goldman Sachs, and a former Goldman co-CEO. Josh Bolten, White House Chief of Staff under George Bush Jr., a Goldman Senior Executive. Ed Liddy, appointed to run AIG after the taxpayer bailout, a Goldman board member. Bob Rubin, Treasury Secretary under President Clinton, former Goldman CEO and Chairman of Citigroup. Bob Steele, Undersecretary of the Treasury, a former Goldman Vice Chair and CEO of Wachovia. Dan Jester, a TARP advisor at Treasury, former Goldman Deputy CEO. Neil Kashkari, the list goes on. Finally, it was sometimes difficult to sort out who was working for whom. At the height of the financial crisis and the Bank of America merger with Merrill Lynch, three key decision-makers were ex-Goldman bankers. John Thain, Merrill CEO, Chris Flowers, Bank of America advisor, who got a big success fee if the merger went through, Hank Paulson, then in Treasury. These three men worked closely together for decades in the same division at Goldman, arguably the most competitive financial arena in the world. Regardless of whether they loved each other or hated each other, how could they possibly have maintained the objectivity that the taxpayers and shareholders deserve? But Goldman Sachs did nothing illegal in this respect. Every one of the firm's competitors was envious. So if this situation posed conflicts which disadvantaged Main Street, it happened on Congress's watch. Clearly, a Wall Street ethos has evolved, which has placed the pursuit of profits above all else. It's hard to believe that paying fines and banning certain practices were viewed by today's Wall Street leaders as an incentive to change behavior rather than as a cost of doing business. How else could you explain to your constituents that Congress has provided over an endless parade of Wall Street abuses, which enriched Wall Street at the expense of Main Street, even before the recent mortgage meltdown, resulting in fines and or practices banned, and of course without admitting or denying wrongdoing. These included abuses in market conduct such as research analyst conflicts, B and C share sales, breakpoints like trading, market timing, IPO kickbacks, spinning, laddering, non-disclosed revenue sharing, favoring in-house funds, low net worth customer abuses, corporate, municipal bond, bank loan versus margin abuses, derivative abuses, conflicts when your broker switches firms abuses, and misleading disclosures involving cash management and 2009's abuse of the year auction rate securities. Okay, so I have 3 recommendations. 1, the need for specialized expertise. Congress is supposed to be the ultimate check in the capital markets chain, from investors to issuers of securities. A cursory review of your House Financial Services Committee shows that many who also serve on other committees not related to finance. Perhaps these representatives are spread too thin and should be limited to solely to membership on this committee, similar to restrictions on membership of House Ways and Means. Remember that Wall Street professionals practice finance full-time. Certainly you can understand the difference when a Wall Street broker transacts with a sophisticated counterparty such as PIMCO or CalPERS, and an individual investor like Grandma, who does not know if those muni bonds have been marked up by 3 points. In this respect, Congress, too, is Grandma. I'm not aware that many congressional staff members have MBAs or PhDs in finance from schools like Columbia, Wharton, Chicago, Booth, the Tuck School at Dartmouth, or Harvard. Most are attorneys. In my opinion, this lack of specialized expertise and focus has placed Congress, and therefore Main Street, at a distinct disadvantage. The subject of finance is extraordinarily complex. To understand sophisticated new products in a globally interconnected marketplace today requires full-time attention just to keep up, and the expertise to anticipate problems before they become systemic. Clearly, our regulators, rating agencies, Federal Reserve banks, Treasury Department, as well as Congress were caught flat-footed when the mortgage crisis became systemic. One irony during this crisis was when Wall Street leaders, who became very wealthy as a result of their trading desks and hedge funds' prime brokerage clients, because of their ability to sell securities short, they then screamed bloody murder when they became the targets of the short selling themselves. As you recall, the SEC placed a temporary halt on the short sale of 799 financial companies in September 2008. Again, as our ultimate check, wouldn't it make sense to consider basketball coach John Wooden's maxim? Failing to prepare is to prepare for failure.